Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my Dune Awakening content. So folks, the beta weekend finally came to an end. They shut the servers down about 2 hours ago and they had to literally pry me off the server with a crowbar. I'm not joking, because I did not want to stop playing this game. I want to talk to you about my beta impressions, and I know that I already made one beta impressions video. I made that yesterday, but I think I may have made that video just a little bit in haste because I really wanted to talk about my experiences then. But after playing all day today, I realized that I may have not really gave the beta weekend a fair shake after the experience that I had today. So if that sounds interesting and you would like to hear my retake on this situation, then tune in and let's get into it. So I looked at my Steam account, and in the last 3 days I spent 61.1 hours in the beta and the beta weekend. I want to talk about the good and the bad. First off, let's talk about the good, because I always like to do the good news and then the bad news. But this is not really going to be like that, I don't think, because honestly, the news and the feel that I got from the beta weekend was pretty much good. I'm not going to lie, I'm really struggling to come up with something that I think was a negative about the weekend, because all in all, it had a pretty positive feel for me. We looked at the numbers on the the maximum users for the beta weekend on Friday, and it was like 17,500 people played on Friday. That didn't surprise me, because Friday was kind of an odd day to start the beta, because a lot of people were at work and couldn't take off and couldn't jump in at 7 o'clock in the morning Central US Standard Time when it began. So seeing on the charts that there were almost 18K users that day didn't really surprise me. That's kind of what I suspected from the totals that they said that they were going to invite. I mean, they didn't really give us a for real number on what they were going to, how many people that they were going to invite for the weekend, but roughly I was guessing somewhere around, I don't know, 20 to 50K people. And I think that was probably a pretty fair estimate, really, because Friday we saw numbers of 17,500 at peak. And then we looked again on Saturday, and there was like 35,000 at peak on Saturday. And then I'm not really sure what the numbers were for Sunday or today, but all in all, I feel like it was a pretty good group that got in and got to test and see the load on the servers and all that. I know me personally, I had a really good experience for my guild, for my group of people that I'm forming up to go into the game at release with my guild. We almost have a 32 player cap right now. I think the last time I looked at my numbers, I'm somewhere right around 32, honestly. I think I am actually capped out, because I had another member tell me yesterday that his son was going to play after seeing how good the game ran during the beta weekend. He made up his mind that he was going to play, and I think that was our last spot that we had open. So I'm pretty much at a 32 player cap. I don't really want to create a group bigger than that, because I want to keep the play experience really good for that group, and I think if it gets too much bigger than that, it'll just be too much to manage, and I don't really want that experience for the players. I want it to be as good as it can be, so I want it to keep it manageable and not, overstretch myself. But as far as the experience that we had together as a group, we had a really strong showing for the beta weekend. I think at max I had 19 of my people in, and that is a lot more than I had expected, honestly, because I didn't know if a lot of them was going to be able to get off for the weekend or, you know, anything like that. So I didn't really know what to expect. I had a lot of people say, yeah, I'm going to be there, yeah, I'm going to be there, and then I kind of thought, well, some of them will drop out, you know, so it won't be as many as I think it will be, but it ended up being more than I thought it will be from our group. So we had about 18 or 19 people go in with us, and that was really good. I was really pleased about that. From the experience that I saw us have in the game as a group, the mechanics were good, the chat mechanics were good, the party mechanics were good. I think we only noticed just a few times there were a few little bugs with the icons of your party members when they were in your party, the little purple circles that show up on your top of your bar, like what you see right there on the screen right now, were kind of displaying erroneously based on the player's location, but that's no big deal. That's something that can be fixed easily. The grouping mechanic worked really good. Each group had its own little chat, and we were using voice on our Discord server, so honestly, combined with the voice on the Discord and the grouping mechanics in game, it worked really good. We didn't have any problems with that at all. The content as a group was good. Was like where we're at right now in this video. We're in Imperial Testing Station number 10, which was one of the hardest areas in this beta test weekend. And we were challenged. I mean, you can see on this video I died multiple times, had to respawn. Granted, I'm not the best combatant in the world. I didn't have a shield on. I wasn't even using high power armor or weapons because I hadn't acquired a lot at this time yet, and this character was only like level 17, so I probably didn't have any business being in the area I was in. Honestly, the guy I was with pretty much carried me in this video. You can see that. But the combat felt good. I tried all the different classes except for the Planetologist. I tried Mentat, Bene Gesserit, Trooper, Swordmaster, and I didn't try the Planetologist. But the 4 main classes that I did try, I really felt good about them all. Each one had their own strengths, and they each felt unique in their own play style, and I thought that was really key. That was something I was hoping to see during the testing phase, was that each class felt unique and different. The Mentat obviously came at the content with a range type mechanic. The Swordmaster was an in-your-face, knee you, stun you, take you down. The Trooper was just all-out warfare, ranged damage, blowing them up. The Bene Gesserit was a combination of all different kinds of stuff. It was a sprint tactic. It was a compel tactic. It was a, all different kinds of play style, and the classes felt unique and they felt good, and I was really happy to see that, because I want to make sure that that is a thing, so that when I try different classes, I have a different play experience. I want them to feel fresh and new, and not just different, wrappings on a different box, you know what I mean? I want them to, or different wrappings on the same box is what I was trying to say. I want them to feel different, and I got that feel from playing these classes, honestly, so I felt really good about that. I think that the content itself was possibly a little bit on the easier side, and I think the majority of my guild members would probably agree with that, because they pretty much told me the same thing. That once they learned how to play their classes and they started to get some good gear, they felt like they were kind of a little OP for the area. But you also have to take in consideration the content level that we were presented with. We were presented with the starting area and just a little bit beyond that. you could definitely feel a shift between the AI and the enemies in the South Haga Basin starting area and then the Vermilius Gap area. You could definitely tell they got harder, for sure. Once you were introduced with having to face off against a heavy, man, you found out real quick how tough they could get. So there's a lot of content areas left to go that we have not seen yet, and that means that the content can get a lot harder, and we just haven't got to experience it. So we may change our tune once we get into those higher areas and face some of those tougher opponents, a lot more heavies, a lot more this, a lot more that. We may change our tune a little bit at that point. So I did want to just give combat a good grade. I think it was good. I tried a few different skill builds, and I feel like I'll have a lot of fun trying to determine what's a good skill build for me and for the situations that I'm trying to do. Am I delving into the testing stations, going on loot runs? Well, then I'm going to set up a certain build based on the one I'm going to. Like this one right here, there was a lot of heavies in there, so maybe I want to pick a different class and a different skill build to go into this one, or a different skill build to go into this one the next time we do it, type of thing. And the freedom of the skill system will allow me to do that, and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. Am I going to go resource gathering, and now maybe I want to dip into the planetologist and then combine it with the trooper or the Bene Gesserit travel mechanic skills, those kind of things. So those were really awesome to feel, and I really had a good time with that, and I really feel good about that. I think they're at a good place with that content and the strength of the content and the way the content progresses in relation to your character power. I think they did a great job with that, and I feel really good. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about, and this was pretty much the overall feel of the loot drops. The loot drops I felt were good, and this mechanic, the way it works in this game, is just a little bit different than a few others, because a lot of games you do get some actual loot drops, but in this game you seem to get schematics. You seem to get schematics everywhere you go, and then you have to take those home, research those schematics to get an Imperial permit to craft that item, and you get one craft of that item each time from each schematic. Then if you have the components, you can take them to your fabricator and you can craft them. That's kind of a different feel than just picking up loot items everywhere that are already crafted. So we'll have to say I actually didn't think I was going to like this at first, but I actually found out through gameplay that I do like this. Because a lot of times in MMOs, you get to the point that you just get so much loot everywhere you go that it all becomes meaningless. And this schematic system, with the way the items drop as a schematic, and then you pick and choose what you're going to craft and what you're not, and then possibly in the future, you'll have more leeway and flexibility about what you're going to list on the exchange, type of thing. Where you can choose to list it on the exchange as a schematic or as a crafted item. Just, there's pros and cons to either one there, but to have that flexibility is really going to be interesting for me. It's going to add a whole new layer to my trading or exchange gameplay, and I think that's going to be really interesting. So I do like that. So I think they got a win there too, as far as the looting system. Now, those are probably some of my high points from my beta experience, from the 61 hours that I did put in over the last few days. I would say that the grouping and the guild gameplay was good. I loved all the different permissions that were able to be set on everything you can think of, from vehicles to bases to all that. I think that was great. I think the combat was good. I think the classes felt great and unique. I think they did a really good job with that. So those are some of the more, and the looting, we talked about that. Those are some of the more positive things that I felt really, really good about. And those are important things to get right in a game like this. Also, this is technically mainly a survival game. And I think they nailed that too. A lot of people were saying, oh my God, it's so hard to survive in this game. I'm constantly dying of thirst. I'm this, I'm that. I'm sunstroked. I'm this, I'm that. But, yeah, you are. Because it is a survival game. That's what the game's main idea is that we are on a harsh desert planet that is one of the harshest planets you've ever seen to survive on. It's true to form. If you know the Dune lore, you know that Arrakis is a place where 10 people go in and maybe one survives. Maybe if the odds are in his favor, one may survive. So the survival as harsh is good. I like that. Because what that's going to do is that's going to allow this game to not get stale so fast. A lot of times when we play these kind of games, if the survival mechanics are too easy to be cheesed or too easy to find a way around through crafting superfood or, just wearing the ultimate gear that negates the penalties that you need to survive, those kind of things can make a survival game, kind of not as functional as it could be. But in this game, it's difficult to survive. So I think that is going to play in this game's favor as far as keeping it fresh longer. Keeping the challenge there so that people will have to really feel like they achieved something when they survived. So I think they got a win there as well. The sandworms and the threat is real. The death from the sun, the death from, the thirst, it's all in your face, and it's all done really, really well. So I really did enjoy that. That was probably one of my favorite things about the game, honestly, was the fact that the survival matched the lore and that it felt real. It felt like real survival, and I really did dig that. So those are the high points that I wanted to speak on. And now I need to balance this viewpoints out by talking about some things that could have been negative, weren't really, but could have been. Obviously, the elephant in the room about this whole situation, if you're familiar with Dune, you're familiar with the ongoing talks about the server structure and what's going to happen with the server structure with this 40 player per Haga Basin concurrent user cap, and on and on and on we go with this discussion. I'm not really sure what to say about that, if you want to know the truth. Because I don't think that this beta weekend was an actual accurate test of what the servers are really going to do, like when you have a release situation. Now, I don't have this on any kind of developer quote or word from the developers or anything like that, but I got the feeling through my play this weekend that they spun up way too many servers. I think that and let me just preface this by saying I personally believe, this is my feel that I got from the testing phase this weekend. I believe that they had way too many servers going, more so than was necessary for the amount of players that were playing. And why do I say that? Well, I say that because I have a feeling that they're really worried about how their servers are going to perform in a release situation, and rightly so, they should be, because the server structure that they've come up with is a little odd compared to what we've seen in the past from other games. And I'm not saying they can't try something new and that they don't have the freedom to do what they want. It's their game. They can do whatever they want. But we're a little nervous about this 40-player concurrent user cap thing per Haga Basin, and then having to travel to other Haga Basins to visit your friends if they're not on the same one as you. That just doesn't sound like that's going to work out very well. And in this test, we didn't really get an accurate test of that because there was so many servers going that we never really got to the point that we felt like we hit that cap, you know what I mean? I never got in a queue. I disconnected from the game a couple of times because I closed the game down and tried to reopen it just to see what would happen. And I got in a queue for like 2 minutes once, and that was the extent of it. And I don't really feel like that had there been a population like what we will see at release, that I accurately got to feel what that situation feels like. I think they spun up way too many servers because they were so worried about that experience being bad and causing negative publicity for the game that they decided to go overkill on the servers. And the reason why I say that is simply from my play experience in the game. I was with my guild mates, and I saw them because we were running around together. But I hardly saw other players at all. Yes, I would see the house here and there, and once in a while I would hear a player go by on a sand bike, and once in a while I would see somebody running in and out of a testing station or something like that, but it didn't have the feel of a world that was overly populated at all. I mean, I looked at the server list all the time because I constantly was changing characters, trying new builds out, trying new classes out, and all kinds of stuff. And every time I went to the server list, I would see hundreds of servers for just the United States region alone, and they all said low pop, low pop, low pop, low ping, low ping. That's not a situation where I feel like we got an accurate test of that server structure. So I'm gonna have to call that out and throw that out there. It's not really a negative, but it's not really the testing experience I think that we should have had. If we were going to find out how this server structure is going to actually perform, I think they should have cut back on the number of servers so that they could have got a lot more clustered and gave us the feel of what that queue is going to be like. Now, I didn't even really try to transfer to other characters on other worlds because the first day I don't even think that was working because we tried and it wouldn't work. And then for the rest of the 2 days, we were all so engrossed in doing our own thing that honestly, I never even really thought about traveling to any of my friends on other servers because the ones that were on the server with me, we were so busy running around doing stuff together that I never really had a chance to think about going somewhere else, honestly. And that's not always going to be the experience that you have in this game with this server structure. So one of my things that could possibly be a negative is I don't think we got an accurate test of the load on the server. So I think that probably didn't give them the best data and the best feedback for them to really know what would have happened in a release type situation, because if the maximum concurrent users on this server setup were 30 to 40,000, that's nothing compared to what a release situation is. Once everybody out in the gaming space sees all these positive reviews for this game, and the reviews that I'm seeing are overwhelmingly positive, I'm just going to say that. And I feel overwhelmingly positive about it too. So I know the shape of those reviews, how they're starting to kind of feel, because I'm somebody that usually calls it like it is. I tend to be a pessimist by nature, and I don't normally give glowing reviews for stuff just because. I am always looking for the bad points in things to kind of balance out the good. And I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling to find any bad points to really counterbalance all the good points that I'm wanting to talk about. So that right there tells me how great of an experience this was. But I am worried about what I brought up, though. I'm not 100% convinced that they are 100% convinced that this server structure thing is going to work, but I think it's too far to turn back now. I think we're too far into it to even try to think about doing something different now, and they pretty much made that statement themselves, that they're kind of, stuck with what they got, and I think they're kind of hoping and praying it's going to work. But we'll see, because like I said, I just don't think that this server load was an accurate test of what they really should have done. I think they should have restricted it a little bit more. Okay, so on to the next point. So I was really scratching my head trying to come up with something that I could counterbalance all the good points with as far as a negative, so that I could provide them some constructive criticism to help them do better with figuring out a way to make their game better. It's not going to do them any good if I just sit here and talk about, everything was roses, everything was great, I loved everything. There has to be something that I didn't like about the experience that I could provide feedback on. Now, in my first video that I did on my beta impressions, I was really overly critical of the experience on controller as far as the menus and the burdensome feel of the menus, how hard it was to try to figure out how to use the building system on a controller. I think now that I've had an extra day to play it and really get into it, because I got into the building hard today. I was pushing my advanced subfief to the limit, trying to build as big a structure as I possibly could to take in all that space that I had available to me, because I wanted to see what it felt like, and I wanted to see how the building experience truly felt. And after I played with it today, I kind of realized that the muscle memory started to build up while I was using the controller, and I think my experience today was actually a lot better than it was Friday night, Saturday morning, when I was pulling out my hair trying to figure out how to place certain pieces of the building system, and I threw my controller down in disgust and got up and walked away. It was so bad. After having another full day to play with that system, I think the muscle memory started to build up and it got a lot better. So I want to kind of revisit that feedback and just kind of say that maybe I was just a little bit too critical on that at first. And yes, I've been inundated with the comments of people saying, yeah, but this is a PC game and you're trying to say you play on controllers a normal experience. Well, I don't care. That argument's invalid to me, because I am somebody that has to use a controller. I don't have a choice because of a physical disability. So they have to design this kind of stuff for people that can't use a keyboard. So that experience needs to be good, and they need to put the effort into making sure it is. And people saying that that's not the normal way people play, so we don't care, that's dumb. I'm not even going to listen to that nonsense. But I think I was just a little bit overly critical of the system, how it is, and I think it actually got better the more I played with it. So I fully expect that a week into release, I'm going to be flying with those building pieces, throwing them out left and right, making those structures that are going to blow your mind type of thing, and I feel good about it. I feel a lot better. So one of the things that was actually a negative criticism that I had is now turned into a positive. So I wanted to make sure I revisited that feedback and gave it a fair shake. So all in all, my experience from my time in the beta weekend was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was very sad when they shut the beta weekend down and I had to get off the server because I literally don't know what I'm going to do with myself for the next few weeks while I wait for early access, because I want to play so bad. And that's a good sign, because that means a game is good. It made me get those kind of feels, and I'm really happy about that. So I wanted to share that with you and let you know that I personally gave this beta, if I was going to rate it out of 10, I gave it an 8.5, and that for me is pretty high, because I'm usually somebody that's pretty stingy with my ratings, especially on a 10 scale. I'm pretty stingy with my ratings, and I don't just throw 10s out to everybody that walks by. You know, I'm saying that this was a really good experience for me, and 8.5 is a stellar rating for me. So take that for what you will. You may rate it higher, you may rate it lower, but from the experience I saw, I thought that this was a good time all around. And I'm also basing that on my opinion from the group that I brought into this with. I had 17 to 19 people playing this beta, and we have our private Discord where we were sharing our feedback over after, and it was overwhelmingly positive. I don't think anybody in my group posted a negative comment at all about the beta. It was always, oh my God, I'm so sad it's over. I can't wait to get back in. That was all the stuff that we heard, and that is amazing to see that kind of feedback. I needed a game desperately that was going to take my attention away from Ark, because I've played Ark for almost 10 years now, and Ark is dying, and I needed something that could steal my love away from the survival game space from Ark into a new realm, and I think I found it. I feel really comfortable with Dune as a game that I'm going to play long term with my guild or without. You know, either way, it doesn't matter. Of course I want to play with my guild because that's the experience I'm building, but I could play this game solo or with a group, and that's a good thing to be able to say. That's a good feel to be able to have. I think they've got a winner on their hands here, and as long as they can figure out, the only thing that I see as a possible negative was the server structure. As long as they can get that under control and it can settle itself out after release, like games like this always have to do, then I think they've got a diamond on their hands. And I would definitely suggest this game to you all, and I hope that you will enjoy yourself when you play it. So thank you for watching my content. Thank you for sitting through my beta feedback feels from, you know, what I did this weekend in the beta weekend. I hope that this entertained you and possibly helped you form an opinion on the game for yourself. If you didn't get to play it, I hope you did get to play it, because I think you would have enjoyed yourself. And, you know, if you like this content, then think about subscribing if you wouldn't mind, because I'm trying to reach my next milestone, and my big goal that I have planned for myself and for my account is to hit 5,000 subscribers, and I'm on my way to that goal, and I would love for you to be one of the ones that help take me there. We can get there together, but I need your support. So I appreciate you watching my content. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great week at work, and I'll see you soon, hopefully, in Dune Awakening. Peace.